All of a sudden, it's December, and the FCS Playoffs upon us. Checking in now with UC Davis, one of three seeded teams out of the Big Sky Conference. They host Rhode Island on Saturday evening. Tim Plough, the head coach of the Aggies, joining us. Coach, thanks for being here. How you doing?
Colter, this is early for us. Normally we get like the midnight football talks, man. So good to be back on the show.
Well, first of all, tell us about just the sort of the path to the eight seed, because I know you guys had some slugfest down the stretch. Had to rally against your rival to win the Conway Classic, but you got it done, and that was enough to get you that first round bye. So just take us through the last couple weeks for your team.
Yeah, I feel like we had a real disappointing loss at home to Idaho State, where just we didn't play our best football and could have really shocked a lot of teams and sent them into a bad look. And I thought the way our team rallied and came back, played really well against Idaho. Went up and went blow for blow there with Montana State, and then found a way to beat a really talented Sac State team at home. So, when I think about the Big Sky, if you can go 6-2 in the conference and win 9 games in a regular season, I think we knew we were going to be either a top 8 seed or close to it, and was happy to see that the committee rewarded the Big Sky, which I always think our conference is the deepest, and the teams that are at the top of that conference should be rewarded. So we're obviously thrilled to had the bye week. Guys get rested, and we've been beat up all year. We're only dressing 50 some odd guys right now, so that week off is going to be helpful, and hopefully we can play our best football now down the stretch.
Well, on that note, how much do you think the league prepared you now for the Big Sky Conference, and what's it like having, or for the playoffs? Excuse me. How much do you think the Big Sky prepared you for the playoffs, and having basically playoff games down the stretch, whether it's at Idaho, at Montana State, playing Sac State? That seems like that's a huge building block for you guys coming into the postseason. How much can it help boost you up?
Yeah, we definitely feel really prepared. I mean, we traveled to play Mercer early in the year, and they're obviously a top 8 team, and we felt like we controlled that game from start to finish. Obviously went on the road and played Montana State, and they're a top seed, and then played some tough teams at home, and were able to find ways to win games when we were without some of our best players. So I feel like this team's battle tested. This team's got grit, man. They just kind of figure out ways to have more points than the other team right now, and I think you get trained that when you're playing good teams in this conference. So I've always felt like the Big Sky prepares you. If you can find a way to survive those 8-9 games, man, and win enough of them, I think you feel like you can play with anybody. And I know our team right now, like we talk about, we feel like we can beat anybody, and we feel like if we don't play our best, we could lose to anybody. So for us, it's about playing our best football now when our best is needed. And I think our guys are just really looking forward to have another game, another opponent, and hopefully earn a chance to keep playing. And I think our guys are excited about that.
So much emotion goes into rivalry games, obviously. So how do you channel that after a rivalry win, especially when you do have a week off where there's a chance for maybe a dip? How do you sort of get that same emotion and same good juju coming into this week?
Yeah, I think for us, luckily had a similar situation last year. Had a really close game against Sac State, found a way to win it. Had the bye week. And I think for us, man, when we have buys, we're able to really hone in on just our preparation and how we prepare for our opponents. And so right away, we just start talking about who our opponents could be, start to get ready for those teams. Now that we know who it is, the last few days, been able to really hone in on our opponent and their strengths and weaknesses, and our guys do a good job being focused on one game at a time. And I think they're so thankful to have more football that they're excited, and sometimes I think the bye is good because it gives you a chance to almost reset and say, okay, it's a new season now, right? You're 0-0 and the other games don't matter, and now you're playing a good team every week. Got to play your best, and so I think sometimes the bye week can just help you hit the reset button, like, okay, everything before this doesn't matter. Let's just restart it and play our best.
Well, when you play these East Coast teams, a lot of times there's hardly any, if any, crossover. There is a little crossover though, right? Because I think Rhode Island played Mercer last year, I think, in the playoffs. I don't know. Do you go that far back when you're looking at scouting a team, or how do you sort of find commonalities when you're preparing for a team from the other side of the country?
Yeah, we've definitely tried to look at common opponents in the last couple of years and see if there's anything that we can take from it. But I think sometimes you focus too much on that, and maybe not enough on yourself, right? Like you got a great chance to self scout. You got 12 weeks of film on yourself now, and you got a week off, man. Let really dive into yourselves and what are you doing well? What are you struggling with? What are some things you can get back to? Who are you as a team? And that's the fun part about the bye, I think, is really sitting back and saying, okay, what are we going to be now for the next hopefully month, and how can we find ways to win these games. And so sometimes you focus a little bit more on yourself, right? And like, what are you doing well? What do you got to get better at, and see if you can get that done before you play your first team.
Well, you mentioned it. You have a banged up roster, but a group of guys that have come together. So how do you hope these guys embrace sort of this playoff mentality that lies ahead?
Yeah, I think the last 5-6 weeks, once we had that run there, we lost about 16 guys to the season-ending injuries. We had to kind of figure out who we were going to be, and I feel like we've gotten into a good rhythm of who that is. Defensively, we've played really strong. I feel like the last 3 weeks, the Idaho game, Montana State game, Sac State game, I think our defense really showed what they're capable of, and the guys and the packages we can use. And then I think offensively, it's okay. Who do you want to get the ball to? Caden's starting to get more comfortable now. He's played in some big atmospheres. That Montana State game was great for him. That's a different atmosphere, a big-time ESPN game against a great team. And for him to go through that experience, that's going to make him better. So I feel like, we know who we are now. I think our guys have confidence. And so, we know what guys we're leaning on and what guys we can depend on. And we've had some younger guys step up on special teams, and now they've had a bunch of weeks under their belt. And so I think as banged up as we are, that small group of 50 some odd guys now, they feel like they can beat anybody if they play their best football. And so I think they're really looking forward to that.
Well, so interesting talking to you earlier this year, and I remember you made the Caden Pinnock and Eric Barrier comparison, and after seeing them live in person, it's a really good comparison. And I never forget when Barrier went down, or when Gage Gubrud went down in Bozeman.
Right.
Barrier takes over. The next week he plays, Jay Hill, and Coach Hill had him all crossed up, 10 million coverages, and he looked totally pedestrian. But then he started getting better. And then by the time the playoffs rolled around that year, dude was straight lightning in a bottle. I mean, and he went crazy, and then Eastern went all the way to the national championship game. So how do you have a similar sort of channeling of the energies for your young quarterback?
Yeah, unfortunately, we played them in the quarterfinals
Right.
here, and we
Right.
were up 29-28 with I think 50 seconds left, and the freaking guy took him down the field and beat us. So I think the good thing about Caden, and we knew this when the year started, was he was going to play his best football at the end of the season. And so our biggest challenge was, can we help him develop and teach him and have him go through some of the growing pains without losing enough games to keep us out of the playoffs? And I think what we're excited about is he really is playing his best football. I think the Montana State game was such a great lesson for him. And then he played his best football against Sac State. I thought he was really lights out, super accurate, got the ball out of his hand. He had 0 scramble rushing yards, which I thought was a great sign of his growth, right? He wants to take off and run when things aren't there. But if he can move the football without doing that, and then when he needs to throw on a Superman cape, do the stuff with his legs, that's when he becomes really difficult. And so I think he's his most confident he's been in a while. And that's what our hope was, is that at the end of the year, we were going to get our best version of him. And I think we're going to get that, which, again, could help us. I think if he's playing his best, we can compete with anybody, and he's a difficult guy to defend.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash one pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Rhode Island coming to Davis out of the Coastal Athletic Association. They beat Central Connecticut State 27-19 in the first round of the FCS playoffs. That league has gone through such a huge turnover, so it's so hard to get a beat on them. They're one of the teams that have been in it since the olden days, so to speak. What can you tell us about the Rams? What's your initial scout on your opponent Saturday?
I think it's a great point about the conference. I didn't even realize how many teams are in that conference. That's a lot of teams. Yeah, I mean, so I didn't realize that it was even bigger than the Big Sky and the amount of teams they have. But what I see from them on film is they got really good quarterback play and a good bunch of skill guys around. The receivers are really talented. And then they got a good running back. So I feel like offensively they're going to cause problems because they can throw the football, they can run the football, but they got good skill talent. And then defensively, I think their front does a good job causing problems. They bring a lot of different pressures. And so sometimes when you cross over into these conferences, they're not really used to playing against our style of football, and maybe we're not used to playing against their style. And so it'll be interesting probably early on in the game to get a feel for their speed, their athleticism, and what things feel like, and then be able to make adjustments from there. And I'm sure they're going to have to do the same thing with us in that regard. But that's fun, man. That's what makes the playoffs the best, is when you're crossing over and playing teams you don't see all the time. And that makes it really fun. So we're excited, again, have it at home, have it on ESPN. A matchup you're not going to see very often. Should make for a good football game, I hope.
All the Northeastern teams I've covered in the playoffs in these crossovers throughout my career have been sort of big, physical, kind of nasty teams. Is that what you see on film when you look at Rhode Island?
Definitely see the physicality.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely a physical football team, and especially on defense. They tackle well, they fly around, they get after the quarterback. So I think you hit that one on the head. Definitely see the physical nature of how they play. And I think from an athletic standpoint, you probably don't really know until you get out there, because I don't know their opponents. But on film, it looks like I said, it looks like their wideouts are really talented. Looks like their quarterback's good. But we obviously see that stuff every week in the Big Sky, especially wideouts and QBs. So it'll be interesting to see just how that translates early on. But we know they're going to be physical. I think that jumps off the screen.
Well, last thing for you, then you mentioned it, but it's a nationally televised game. It's on ESPN. Yeah, it's a cool deal for you guys to sort of have the Saturday night spotlight. So I know you're a UC Davis alum. This must be pretty cool for you to be leading your alma mater into, a game that's going to put the university on display for everybody around the country to see.
Yeah, I can't express how important this is for our program. This will be our fourth nationally televised game and our third national ESPN game for the season. And so for us to get our brand and our program out for people to see, it's a big deal. And I know you and I have had long talks about this in the past about, we're trying to get up there with the Montanas and the Dakotas. And it's a battle, man. It's hard. And that's why that Montana State game was such a blow. We feel like we work our butt off to get to that game, and then we're just, we fall short again, unable to get over the hump against those teams. But we traveled to Montana last year on ESPN, found a way to win that game. And so I think for us, it's if ESPN and the national broadcast feels that strongly about our viewership and how we're starting to get on the TV that way, I think that's great for our program. So it is a big deal, man. I mean, our ESPN games have all been away. We were, at Alabama for that Mercer game. We've been at Montana State. This is the first time ever that ESPN is in Davis, in Shredville, for a home game. And like you said, all the eyes are on us. That's a huge opportunity, I think, for our program. So hopefully we got a great crowd, and we can show what makes this university special, and we can continue to make that growth of, we got to figure out a way to close the gap between the Dakotas, the Montanas, and us. And so another opportunity for us to show that we're worthy of that spotlight, and hopefully play our best football and earn a chance to keep playing.
Well, they've been doing a really good job this year of highlighting all the stuff from around campus. Some of the stuff they did on Saturday was really cool, some of the other schools. So hoping that continues with UC Davis on national TV on Saturday. Tim Plough joined us on the Big Sky Breakdown, Coach. We appreciate the time. Thanks so much, and best of luck Saturday night.
Colter, you're the man. We are huge Big Sky fans here, so I'm hoping the Montanas take care of business and the Aggies find a way to win, and let's try to keep this Big Sky thing rolling. Let's get two Big Sky teams at the end, man. Let's make that the final look and get this thing done the right way.